Alright, welcome everyone to another one of our streams where we're going to look at games played in the Atlantean Chess Tournament 2021. Now, I know that we're already in 2022, and therefore we are indeed going to do something new, which is the elimination rounds. But yeah, it's still in the Atlantean Chess Tournament 2021 because we still haven't finished that yet. As you might have noticed, I don't have any fancy blue screen, green screen stuff, anything going on anymore because I am quarantining in a hostel room. So the audio as well, you might have noticed a bit more ambience noise than usual because I don't have my headset with me or my condenser mic. So yeah, audio quality is going to be a bit trash as well until I manage to get something over or something like that. Anyway, if there's anything wrong with the settings or configurations, maybe I'm too loud or too soft, music too loud, too soft, you can't hear Mary or anything, just let us know in the chat and we will try to fix things as soon as possible. Before we begin, Mary, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Not really, not yet.
Yeah, all right, then let's just get right into the games. So, I guess a little bit more about the format. If you are curious about the format, you can always type exclamation mark format in the chat, and there will be a brief explanation on the actual format. I don't remember if I configured it properly, but it should show. But basically, here in the elimination round, hello Volov, greetings from Twitch. So basically we're in the elimination round. This is the round of 20th, a round of 20. I think there are around four people who have bye rounds, so they directly go into the round of 16. But otherwise, there are 20 people competing in this first very round. And this time, in contrast to the previous Gura tournament, which is the Pirates and Sharks Invitational, where that one was double elimination. It had a loser bracket, but this time it's only single elimination. So it's you lose, you get knocked out, it's over, and that can cause some very spicy results. One of the matches in which we will actually look into today, later on. So keep an eye out for some very spicy tournament results, especially if you haven't been following them very closely as the tournament was going on. Okay, let's get into the games. So the first match that we're going to look at is Poppies versus Dakyun. Um, right? Are we going to look at this one first? Let's start with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's just start with Poppies versus Dakyun. We look at all five games of their match, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So Poppy starts off with d4, classic d4, and we see e6, very classical defense. Bishop f4, we see a London over here, b6. Okay, so it seems that Dakyun has watched Gotham Chess e6, d6, e6, b6 course, and decides to play
Okay.
something of a Queen's Indian kind of structure. See e3,
Yeah.
following the London plan. Bishop b7, following the Queen's Indian plan. C3, completing this pyramid structure, very solid. See A5, gathering more space. This looks like a reverse. Wait, is this the shark spin?
Shark's fin is on the other side.
Right, like here, is it?
I guess this is like the other way Shark's fin.
Yeah, like the queen's version of a shark spin, I guess.
Yeah, but we usually recommend that opening against e4.
Yeah, because it's like a variation of the modern defense. But I guess if it's a system, yeah, it's fine. Grabbing a lot of space on the queen side, potentially trying to disrupt this solid pawn chain early on. And we see knight d2 over here, again, very solid. Preparing to move a knight here and defend the f3 square before playing knight f3. Maybe worried of some bishop takes ideas and wanting to capture back the knight instead. So knight d2 was played instead of knight f3. We
Also,
see,
knight d2 is just a very thematic move.
yeah, knight f6, knight gf3. Now playing knight f3 after getting the knight over to d2. And then next up, we will see something like bishop d3 very soon to complete the London development system. Dakyun says that it's a reverse shark fin. Played this against Shota. So this is something of a pet line, I guess, that Dakyun likes to play. We see. Oh wait, that's a bit too fast. Sorry. We see knight d5 going after the strong um, not really strong bishop, but I guess the London bishop on f4. It's kind of a common move to try and harass it early on. But white isn't too worried about it and just drops the bishop back to g3, so maintaining the bishop pair. We see bishop d6 contesting the bishop continuously, and it's quite an interesting decision to make. We see bishop d3 emphasizing on development. White doesn't really mind if black spends another extra tempo to trade off the dark square bishops, because then white will gain a tempo and have a semi-open file for the rook, which can lead to some interesting kingside attacks in the middle game. So in response to this, after white has successfully completed development, Black goes for a very interesting move over here, f5. So not only expanding on the queen side, but also extending the reach out on the king side over here. So immediately, as you can see, Mary is highlighting, this creates a nice pawn chain to block off the strong light square bishop from the strong light square London bishop. Now this is very important to disrupt this light square bishop, because you can see that most of white's pawns, oh, that's a lot of arrows, but it's very important to note that this light square bishop is a strong bishop, because a lot of white's pawns are on the dark squares. This means that the light squares are more maneuverable. Also, this light square bishop is going to be very important because, as you can see, by playing this move f5, yes, you create a pawn chain that obstructs this light square bishop, but keep in mind, as Mary has highlighted earlier, these light squares become very weak and the king should be very careful that it may come under some light square attacks.
And if you play this, then these become weak.
Yeah, then the dark square bishop will become good. So maybe an idea, a potential idea with this in mind is to trade off the dark square bishop and then put all the pawns on light squares. That can be a potential
Yeah.
idea. Yeah. So we see knight
So
e5 over here. Oh, sorry.
this was a very interesting position when I looked at this game,
Mm-hmm.
because it started as like a kind of weird London, right? But then it turned into this Dutch thing.
Yeah.
I
Both
found it quite interesting.
both players actually were quite non-confrontational, right? They didn't,
Yeah.
nothing was traded. One side put a stick in the center with d4, and then nothing happened ever since. No one really contested the center. Everyone
Until
built,
F5.
yeah, until f5. Everything was very solid. Building pawn chains, developing within their own side of the board. Even now, you can see actually the
Yeah,
two
E4, right?
fourth and fifth ranks. Fourth and fifth ranks are actually the boundaries are drawn very clearly from both the white and the black side.
But I mean, even now you kind of see that they're not very confrontational. I mean, if white plays like E4, let's say.
Yeah, e4 would be a very great move, because as we mentioned earlier, yes, the chain does indeed block the light square bishop, but if you are able to break that chain with a move like e4, then the light square weaknesses will become very apparent. And it comes with a tempo as well, because it also hits the knight.
Yeah.
So let's say something like maybe f takes e4, for example. I guess that's the most straightforward move. What will you
Bishop
take back
takes
with?
probably. Bishop takes, right? Because you want to get the diagonal. Actually, knight takes is
Knight
fine.
takes is knight takes comes with a threat at least. It takes, if you take the knight, right, then you are threatening to take. You're threatening to win the
Yeah.
pawn, and then you get the extended file. But bishop takes is also not bad. I think it's also roughly the
Because
same.
you do pin this knight.
Yeah, you pin the knight, so it has both has merit. I think both us should be around the same strength,
This
probably.
knight doesn't really have anywhere good to go.
Yeah. So that shows that if you have seen this already, then you might think that, okay, you know what, taking is a very precious tempo that you can't afford to spend. So maybe instead of taking, you'll move the knight instead. So the most natural
Knight
squares
F4.
are
You have to
here
play
and
knight
here.
F4. No, he dare blunders a 4.
Oh yeah, true. Reburns the fork. So you have to gain a tempo on the bishop, and then
Or you just like slide it back. Bishop C2 maybe.
bishop c2, or you can even just trade.
Yeah, trade probably, but yeah, because this pawn hangs.
Yeah,
Actually, does it? Yeah,
doesn't it?
kind of, not really. I mean, you can probably give it back. Like, let's say this,
If you take
right?
here,
King F1, knight
yeah,
back
it's
to
not very
F4,
comfortable though.
E5, then, yeah, so you gain the piece.
Ah, yeah, true. That's nice. It is uncomfortable, but yeah, that would be nice. That's nice.
Yeah, so
That's
you can
nice.
actually give up. You can actually give up the G2 pawn.
Yeah, and you can't run this way either because the knight and bishop both control that square. So that's nice.
Yeah,
That's a nice thing to see. So bishop c2 also a valid option. But I think trading is much more simpler, right?
yeah. Trading is probably simpler. Just takes. And even actually now you can probably play like E5 and no, but the bishop gets out. So it's
Maybe
probably
taking better. Taking then you win the
yeah
pawn, right?
takes
You win the
takes
pawn, now all the
max.
light squares are open, you're ready to castle and then you're getting ready to just go all out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this position so far looks very nice for white if e4 was played, just refuting f5 completely. But instead, we see knight e5, which is a more thematic London move. Um, Putting a strong knight in the center, maybe you can move your queen to take advantage of these light squares. I don't think you're going to play knight f3 yet. In particular, since f5 is played, you might want to play queen h5, and
Mm,
um, for the reason that you can't really push g6 because your knight can just take it.
yeah.
Yeah, so knight e5 was played, and then here we see black castling, getting out of dodge very quickly, recognizing the threat of queen h5. We see e4 now, which is still a strong move, not as strong because the queen is already castled, and the rook actually might be happy with the f file opening up. So e5 now might
Mm,
be a bit e4 now might be a bit late, but it's still a good move. Here we see a interesting move from Dakyun. Knight takes c3.
what?
Yep,
What?
knight takes c3.
What's the like? Okay, let's. What's the idea?
Well, we need to recognize the basic things first, right? The basic things are it's attacking a queen. The bishop is now unleashed, but the problem is the
But
bishop
the
is not
bishop
really
is
attacking
unleashed.
anything undefended, and the knight is also ready to be captured by the pawn. So
Yeah, wait, Dakyu's in chat, right? Dakyu, can you tell us what the idea was?
yeah. So while Dakyun is typing a response, I'm keeping an eye out for his for anything he types in chat. But I think based on the moves after b takes c3, right, after capturing the sacrifice knight, I think you can see the idea here. Dakyun plays f takes e4. So the idea is that after unleashing the bishop, you can take the pawn, and now the pawn seems to be unable to be captured back by the bishop. But not really, because there is only one defender but two attackers on the e4 pawn. So the pawn is actually up for grabs. Nakin says that he doesn't remember, which is very understandable. It's been quite a while since this game was
I
played. I
mean,
don't remember when it
maybe
was
the
played.
idea is like some Queen F6. You know, I think this.
Maybe,
But
but
even then, F2 is
regardless,
protected.
yeah, F2 is protected. The knight is also protected by the bishop. The bishop is holding everything together. So this is a way of recognizing whether a threat or a tactic is
Probably just miss like some things defended.
yeah, maybe something like that. But anyway, since this pawn is actually up for grabs, Puppies does indeed grab it. So we see bishop takes e4, bishop a6, not trading, trying to preserve
Yeah,
the light square
preventing
bishop
castling.
and prevent castling, which would be nice if not for the fact that the rook is hanging over here. So a bit unfortunate.
But
It is nice recognition though. When you're down a piece, you don't want to trade, and whenever
yeah,
a bishop opposes this long diagonal, sometimes you might want to um, play this bishop a6 move whenever white isn't castled yet. So this is a nice pattern to recognize, but in the in the wrong situation for at this time. Okay, so white doesn't recognize the hanging rook, fortunately for black, and instead plays like a alpha zero with h4, trying to expand on the king side. This is a little bit risky because f2 might, while although is held down very nicely by the bishop here, white still has to be careful because playing h4 will really weaken and strengthen this black's rook over here. Like let's say for example, maybe if black plays something like queen f6 for example, going after this pawn over here, and then white just thinks, hey, you know what? my bishop is holding everything together. You can't really win a pawn because I can take back my bishop, and you can't really attack my f2 pawn because my bishop is holding it. Remember, these are two different diagonals. Two different diagonals. This bishop is overworked. In a scenario where, let's say, queen f6 is played and maybe some knotting move, maybe h5, trying to go even further, then you have to realize that after capturing the bishop here, you can't really capture with this bishop because then you will blunder mate in one. So, of course, it isn't that terrible because you can take the pawn
Yeah,
and
because
you're
of pawn.
still fine. But the point is to realize that white can't really just push h4, h5 and be happy forever kind of deal. There are still threats on the f file if white plays carelessly. So here we see a move here, rook
Yeah,
a7.
black just realizes the rook is hanging.
Yep, black recognizes that the rook is hanging, and this is the only kind of the only way to really hang on to the rook without giving up more material. Because if you play something like knight here, then you can even just trade and win the pawn and still attack the rook. Um,
Maybe f6. No, but f6 just looks sad.
yeah, but actually, to be honest, right, we are talking about winning pawns, but here actually white, if knight something like knight c6 is played, right, engine says that, you know what, you have
Yeah,
so many good pieces, just go for the kill
yeah.
right
There's an
away.
attack, right?
Yeah, there's an
There's an
attack on the
attack
board,
somewhere.
so don't even need to trade off your good pieces for the price of one extra pawn. It's not worth it, says Stockfish. So there's something like that, but we can really what do you call it? Eliminate this move from our candidate moves simply from the simple stuff, right? You lose a pawn, so we know that
Yeah.
it's bad, so you can already just eliminate it. You don't need to think about these. You don't need to fully calculate the line and spend our resources, like our focus and our calculation time. So here, rook a7 was played, avoiding the capture from the light square bishop. See h5. Now white is really going all in, just trying to open things up, keeping the king in the center because now the flank is more dangerous. It's much more exposed than the center now. And we see h6 stopping the pawn from advancing any further, but that just increases the potency of this light square bishop.